So in this short video, we're going to look at creating a simple Hello World program in AS400. Let's begin. We'll start with libraries. We have already covered what are libraries in the previous videos, but just reiterating, libraries hold your source physical files, libraries hold your physical files. So libraries basically hold all your data in AS400. It can be a physical file, it can be a program, or any other things. Everything in AS400 is an object, as we spoke about before. Objects are also present inside libraries. So do watch the previous video which explains the difference between the Windows or Linux file structure and that of the AS400, where everything is arranged inside libraries. So let us go into our AS400. So this is a pub400 free AS400 server. We'll look at the library which we get by default. So the command work lib, work libraries, work with libraries. You can do F4 on it, WRK lib, and type in your username and 1 after it. So this is the default library that you get with the pub400 server. So as you can see, with work lib, the library is there in the library search. You can do 12 on it. So 12 is for work with objects. So this library currently has different objects. So we have two programs. We have different source physical files. So we have COBOL source physical files, CL, QCMD, C++, QDD, SSRC, and RPG. So we have different source physical files to store different types of source codes. So for today's simple Hello World program, we will be focusing on the CL language. So before we come to that, we need to talk about source physical files. So source physical files are objects of type file, and they are present inside libraries and they hold your members. So the name itself, source physical file, tells you that it will hold source codes. So you have by default different source physical files. If they do not exist, you can create a new source physical file with the command crt-src-pf. So for example, the default qcbl-le-src. I want qcbl-src source physical file. I can create it, crt-src-pf, create source physical file. I can create qcbl-src in my library. The record length is 92 by default, which you will keep it as it is. 92 denotes the number of characters which you will have in your program from left to right. So we have kept it by default. We'll give it a text description, COBOL source physical file. Now we'll again go back to work lib, and we'll see inside we have now got another source physical file, which is qcbl-src. Okay. So what are source physical files? Source physical files are nothing but they are files inside libraries which hold your source codes. So you can you can map them to, let's say, a folder in Windows or Linux. So you can assume or you can correlate, although it will not be an exact correlation, but your library is going to be an outside folder. Inside library, you can assume that you have created these folders, and inside these folders, you're going to have programs. So for example, if I want to see what is there inside this source physical file, qcl-src, which is the source physical file for CL programs, what I can do is work mbr pdm. So this stands for work with members pdm, using pdm. So pdm is a utility in AS400, program display manager, I think it is called. But if you want to look inside a source physical file, you can use this command, wrk mbr pdm, and you have to input the source physical file name and your library name. When you press enter, here you will get a list of different programs that you have in your source physical file. Now you can have multiple programs here. I have just created one program, but you can have hundreds and thousands of programs in the source physical file. So The first program is already there. We will be creating a new program for this demonstration. Yeah, so but before that, we will again look at the basic programming languages which are there in AS400. Yeah, before that, we have to cover the members. What is a member in source physical file? So you can see here the heading is member. So what is a member? Member is nothing but a delimitation which explains, or it is a limitation in the source physical file which separates one program or one file from another file. So you can imagine that the folder in Windows or Linux, this would be the outside folder, this would be the inside folder, and here inside you have multiple files. But when you look in AS400, outside you have a library, inside library you have a source physical file, you can have multiple source physical files, and in each source physical file you can have multiple members. So members are equivalent to files or source code files in your Linux or Windows. Okay, so with that out of question, let's move ahead. So basic programming languages. So in AS400, we have covered this in another video before. Many different programming languages supported. Programming languages are supported starting from C, C++, COBOL, RPG, CL, Python, Java. A lot of different languages are supported on AS400. So today we are looking at CL programming language. CL is nothing but control program language. So control language, basically if you Google search, it is a scripting language for AS400. So if you correlate this, if you want to correlate this with Windows and Linux environment, on Windows you have bash script, and on Linux you have bash scripting as well. I think they're called bash on both. I think on Windows it is not bash, it is batch. I'm not sure, but yeah, it is a scripting language for the operating system. So yeah, on Windows you have batch script, and on Linux you have bash script, as far as I know. So similarly on AS400 you have the CL programming language. So CL programming language will basically allow you to write the operating system commands in the program, and it will also allow you to add logic around it, basic if else conditions. It will allow you to declare variables, it will allow you to create for loops and so on. So it is a complete programming language because you can do all the logic processing, you can declare variables in CL, you can compare the value of the variables, you can assign value to the variable, you can execute a certain code multiple times, and so on. So CL has its own uses in the entire AS400 ecosystem. You can use CL to create some scripts which you would otherwise be executing some programs manually. You can use a CL, you can create a CL to automate the process of executing those commands. You can write those commands in CL and you can just run the CL program instead, and the object that gets created, you can run that object, and the commands which you would be executing manually, they would then get automatically executed. Okay, so we are going to look at the CL programming language now, and we'll be creating a simple hello world program in CL. So to create a new file in CL on AS400 of any type of file, whether it be COBOL, C, C++, CL, whichever programming language, all you have to do is we'll go back to the command line. Okay, so we'll start it from work mbr pdm, again work member using pdm. So we have to decide on which type of program we want to create, because as we said before, each program will go into its own source physical files. So we'll just look at it again. So let's say all COBOL programs. So for all COBOL programs, we have the QCBL SRC source physical file. For all CL programs, we have QCL SRC. For all the command source files, we have QCMD. For C++ source physical source files, we have the QCPP SRC, and so on. So every programming language or every type of file will go in its own source physical file. So there is this distinct classification of which type of member or which type of file will get stored in which source physical file. Okay, so for example, Notepad or plain text files are usually stored in qtxtsrc. Now, qtxtsrc is not available by default, but you can create that source physical file on your own. So all the plain text will go in there. Okay, so since we are going to create a CL program, we'll focus on qclsrc. So again, to create a new member, we'll go in to work mbrpdm. We'll do F4 and we'll type our library name and the source physical file name uclsrc and press enter. So to create a new member or to create a new file inside the source physical file, we'll press the option for F6 create. So when you do F6, it'll open this prompt strsu. So strsu is source entry utility. This is where you create your source files. So it is asking you for the member name. So this is the name of the member or the name of the file that you're going to create. So we'll name it test2. Source type. If you do not understand what input is required in any of the fields, you have to remember you have two options with you. One is F1 and another one is F4. So if I do F1 over here, it will give me a nice description of which all options are available, what you can enter, and so on. So source type, I can press F4 here. It will give me a drop down list of all the options that are available. So I want to create a CL source code. So I have to type CLP over here. But if you see, you have an option for various types of programs. You have C, you have COBOL, you have ILE COBOL, you have a display file, logical file, menu, and if you do page down, you get more. You get a print file, you get SQL COBOL, and a lot of other things. The plain text type, RPG program type, and so on. So we have to have a CLP type of program. So how you have extensions in Windows and Linux. So when you create a file in Windows, for example, if I have to create a file in Windows over here, what I will do, I will create a new document, empty document, and I'll have to type in test2 dot. So after dot, I have to specify an extension. So that is what I'm doing in AS400. I'm specifying an extension. So if I have to do it in Linux or Windows, I will do test2.clp. So instead of writing .clp, we specify the extension, the type of the file in a separate parameter, clp. We do not type .txt, .cbl, whatever. We do not have the extension associated with the name of the member directly in the name field. We have a separate field for that in AS400, which is start CLP. We write a description, hello world, sample, program. Okay, now it directly opens up the source editor for you. So this is like an IDE. IDE would be a very advanced software. So this is not exactly like an IDE, but you can assume that this is Notepad++. This is equivalent to Notepad++. This is not a plain Notepad like you have in Windows or Linux. This is Notepad++, where you have a lot of additional functionality available for you, for the developer. This is not a full-fledged IDE. It is not simple Notepad. It is in between. So you can write your own source code over here. So as we said before, this is a CL program. CL programs execute commands, execute the operating system commands. We are using AS400. So this CLP program is going to execute AS400 commands. So we just want our program to display hello world. So to display hello world, we need to write a command to send a message to the user. We have a command in AS400 for that, which is snd pgm. I think the IBM has a documentation on it. Send USR message is the command. So send program message and send user message. You can go through this IBM documentation. It talks about sending a message from a program to the user. So we'll be using this command snd usr msg. So I wrote something wrong over here. It is snd usr msg. So this is our command. Now, when we do not know what are the parameters for the command in AS400. What do we do on the command line? We press F4. Similarly, we can press F4 in our text editor. So if you press F4 over here, it will show you the same screen which you would see if you would have executed this command outside. So I'll just switch to a second session with Shift Escape 1. On this session, you can see if I just type in SND, USR, MSG and F4, I get the same prompt. Although it says that it is not allowed in this setting, that means it is not, you're not allowed to run the command from the command line. It is designed specifically to be run from programs, but you can see that same parameters, command parameters which are there. If you press F10, you'll get more parameters. So same parameters which you get when you do F4 on an AS400 command line after typing a command, same parameters you'll get over here. That means I can just enter the values for the parameters which I want and press enter. So I want to type a message, I want to display a message, hello world. And enter. So when I do enter, I think these characters are incorrect. So I'll just type ... or let's just have hello world. Okay, so you see that it automatically added the MSG parameter. It automatically added quotes, open bracket, closing bracket, and quotes. We did not have to type anything. We just typed in the name of the command. We did not have to specify where to exactly write the command. We just typed the command, we pressed F4, and we were presented with all the parameters that the command would have had given you. We can type in all the parameters that we need. If you want to specify more parameters, you can, and just press enter. It will automatically write the code for you. That is the magic of prompting in AS400 SEU. Okay, so that's it. We only have to write one line where we can type save to save the file, or you can type file directly to directly save and close the file. So save will only save. So if I do save, it will only save it to my library and source physical file, but it will not close our editor. But if you do file, it will also save as well as it will close the editor both at the same time. So I've done file, I've come outside, it told me that the member test2 has been added to the library and source physical file. Okay, so now I have test2 which is of type CLP. Now I can change the extension of the file on the fly over here. I can make it CBL, but let's not do that for now. We'll keep it as CLP. So we have written our source code. We cannot execute the source directly, right? We need to compile the source into an object, into an executable machine level code, byte code. So to compile the program into an object, we need to you can have command, you can write the command on the command line, or you can come here and you can type 14 option. So 14, as you can see here, is for compilation. So 14 equal to compile. So you can type 14, you can press F4 after 14. It will again give you a prompt where you can make sure that everything is correct. If you want to change anything, you can change. If you want to create the object in a different library, if you want to create the object with a different name, you can change the name of the target object that will be created. You can change the library name of the target object where it will reside. I'll keep everything same for now. So when I did F4, you see at the top, it says create CL program, which is CRT CL PGM, which means you could have executed the same compilation from the command line directly, but you would have to type all this manually on your own, which we got automatically with 14 option. So the same task of compilation could also be done from the command line using CRT CL PGM, which we did with 14 option. And we just have to press enter. So it said that the program is created in library, my library name. So this means that the program is created successfully. So if you want to verify, you can type in wrkobj to verify that the object exists in my library. So work obj F4. I always do F4 and F1 for everything. I'm a very lazy person, so that is very handy. And my library name. So you see that test2 object of type PGM attribute CLP type of program is created in my library. This did not exist before. Now this source file with the same name exists inside QCLSRC, but since we compiled it, it got created outside in my library as an object outside QCLSRC. Earlier it was a source program inside QCLSRC. Now it is an executable object outside of my QCLSRC and inside my library. So if I do 8 option here, display description, I'll be able to see that the creation date is today's date and it got created just now. So the timings would not match exactly because the server is running in a different time zone. I am in a different time zone. So that does not match. If you want to verify what is the time, there is a command. I think it is not available on this server. Okay, we'll come back to that later. But anyways, we can see that the object, executable object, is created in the library. Now let us execute it. So to execute it, if you want to see a nice output, I'll just do call qcmd, which will give me a blank command line. So to execute the object which we just created, I just need to do call pgm or just call, and I just have to type in the name of the object that I have and the library in which it resides and enter. So it printed the output on the screen, hello world. And if you press F10, you can also see the output on the display on the command line over here, hello world. So that is it. Our job is done. We have created a simple hello world program in AS400. We have followed all these steps. We have gone through library. What is a library? Source physical file. What are members? Different types of programming languages. What is CL? We have written a code in CL and we have compiled it and we have run the program. So that is it. We have created an hello world program. It is as simple as that. Thank you for watching. If you do like the videos which I create, please consider subscribing. It gives me a lot of motivation to create more. Thank you.